The bus lurched forward with a tired groan, and in that small, crowded aisle, a single choice was about to split one man's life into a before and an after. He stood with grease still dark under his nails, shoulders bowed from years of lifting engines and carrying worries, when he noticed the uniform first, the weight of duty stitched into green fabric, the tired steadiness in a woman's eyes. He did not know that giving up his seat would uncover a truth he had buried, reopen a wound he never spoke about, and place a fragile hope back into his hands when he thought hope was something meant for other people. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the quiet power of ordinary people, take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel Grandma Dearie. Because stories like this only live on when they are carried forward by hearts that still believe. He was a single dad mechanic, the kind of man who measured days by what he could fix and nights by what he could afford. His mornings began before dawn in a cold garage, hands stiff from winter, mind racing through bills, school lunches, and the promise he had made to his daughter that he would always come home. The bus was his bridge between survival and exhaustion, a metal box that rocked him toward another shift, another paycheck stretched too thin. When the female cop boarded, the bus was already full, bodies packed tight with fatigue and impatience. She held the pole with one hand, her posture trained to remain steady even when the road jolted, but her eyes carried something heavier than alertness. There was sorrow there, the kind that does not announce itself, the kind that settles deep. Without ceremony, he rose and offered his seat. He did not do it for praise, and he did not expect thanks. He did it because his mother had raised him to notice when someone needed rest, and because he knew what it was to stand all day pretending strength was endless. As he moved aside, something shifted in the air, a quiet pause as if the bus itself recognized the weight of the moment. The cop sat, exhaled slowly, and for a heartbeat, their lives brushed against each other like passing shadows. The bus rolled on through gray streets, rain streaking the windows, the city humming with indifference. The mechanic stood gripping the rail, mind drifting back to the day his wife never came home. An accident, a phone call, a sound that split the world open. Since then, every act of kindness felt like a fragile thread holding him together. He had learned to survive by routine, to keep his head down, to never ask for help. Across from him, the cop stared ahead, jaw tight, as if holding herself upright required every ounce of will. She had spent the night responding to a call that went wrong, watching a family unravel, absorbing grief as part of the job. The uniform hid it well, but the human cost was etched into her posture. When the bus jerked suddenly, she almost lost her balance, and he reached out instinctively, steadying the space between them without touching. That small motion opened a crack in the silence. She noticed the grease on his hands, the wear on his boots, the quiet dignity of a man who had nothing extra to give yet gave anyway. In that moment, something in her softened, not into weakness, but into recognition. She saw not a stranger, but a father, a provider, someone carrying invisible weight much like her own. As the bus approached his stop, an unease settled over him. He hesitated, then did something he never did. He met her eyes, nodded once, and stepped toward the door. The rain greeted him like a cold reminder of reality, and he walked the familiar path to the garage, unaware that the ripple of his kindness was already moving outward. That afternoon, inspectors arrived unannounced. The garage owner, drowning in debt, faced closure after a single violation tipped the scale. Jobs were on the line, including his. Panic clenched his chest as he thought of his daughter's face, of promises made at bedtime. Days later, as he waited outside a community center for a free meal program he had swallowed his pride to attend, a patrol car pulled up. His stomach dropped, fear rising without reason. The door opened, and there she was, the same cop, now without the exhaustion, replaced by resolve. She had recognized him from the bus, had asked questions, had learned about the garage and the looming shutdown. Off duty, moved by a kindness she could not forget, she had connected him with a city program that helped skilled workers transition into certified positions. She had vouched for him not as a favor, but as a belief. The weeks that followed were the hardest and the most hopeful of his life. He studied at night after putting his daughter to bed, hands still aching, eyes burning with fatigue. He failed a test once, then passed the next. He learned new systems, new standards, new confidence. The garage closed, but a door opened somewhere else. He was offered a position with benefits, steady hours, and a wage that meant breathing room. For the first time since his wife's death, he allowed himself to imagine a future that did not feel like constant damage control. He never told his daughter the whole story, only that sometimes doing the right thing comes back to you in ways you cannot predict. On another rainy morning, months later, he boarded the same bus, now wearing a clean jacket, posture a little straighter. The cop boarded too, recognized him instantly, and the air warmed with quiet triumph. There were no words exchanged, none needed. Their lives had intersected just long enough to remind each other of humanity. Near the end of this story, if your heart feels heavy or hopeful or both, please take a moment to like, share, and subscribe to Grandma Dearie, because stories that move us deserve to be passed on, and your support keeps them alive. He would later understand that the seat he gave up was never about comfort. It was about seeing someone, about choosing kindness when no one was watching, about proving to himself that grief had not hardened him beyond compassion. The cop returned to her duty with renewed faith that the people she served were more than cases and calls. Two strangers carried each other forward without ever planning to. Before this story ends, I ask you to leave a comment sharing whether a small act of kindness ever changed your life, because your words might be the hope someone else needs today. The bus continued its route through the city, carrying new faces, new burdens, and new chances. Somewhere between the stops, a single dad mechanic learned that giving up a seat could give him back his future, and a tired cop remembered why she chose to protect a world still capable of quiet miracles.